Should women get mammographies?
Again, it would depend on the person. I think as a diagnostic tool, or as a tool for once cancer is diagnosed, to quantify it, that sort of thing, it's useful. But mammography hurts more women than it helps. And study after study after study has shown that. For every woman who you do something positive for, who you save her life, you're going to hurt 3 to 6. And part of the problem is there's a movement in oncology, which I'm very much in favor of discontinuing calling certain things cancer. In other words, as soon as we label something cancer, even if it's an indolent cancer, it's not going to turn into anything. The term cancer, everybody gets all excited. Doctors get excited, patients get excited. We have to do treatment, we have to do things. Surgery's good. So when we relabel things, like they used to call the lesions that precede cervical cancer, they used to call that pre-cervical cancer, and when they renamed those lesions, half of them go away in 6 months on their own. And as long as you're not calling it cancer, people are willing to wait the 6 months to see if it goes away. As soon as you call it cancer, surgery tomorrow, right? So I think that mammography is really good. I think the evidence shows that mammography is really good at detecting small masses like ductal carcinoma in situ. About 18% of those turn into cancer, and it takes better than a decade for that to happen. Misses the interval cancers that grow quickly in between mammograms. So I think a good argument can be made to stop using it as a screening tool. It's a terrible screening tool. And start using it to aid in the diagnosis of a cancer you have, so you can make plans to do surgery and to treat it. But bad screening tool.
Yes, Dr. Popper did an excellent presentation today on the problem with mammography use as a screening tool. If I have a specific woman sitting in front of me in my office with a specific lump in her breast, and what's the nature of that lump? Absolutely, send her for a mammogram. Although now, because everyone's uneasy about the radiation, I'll send her for a breast MRI, and you get much better imaging with no radiation whatsoever. So the technology has a use for specific people. But to shoot x-rays to the breasts of 150 million American women every year looking for densities is a recipe for disaster, and I urge you to see Dr. Popper's excellent presentation from this morning, and you'll see why that's such a bad idea.
One of the continuing themes as you ask us about various tests and drugs and procedures is that there is usefulness for almost everything that's done in medicine. There are a handful of things I think I would list that we'd be better off never doing it again, but there is usefulness for most of what we do. The problem is that if the services were only offered to the people who really would benefit, there's not so much money in it. You can't make money in mammography doing that test on women who have a lump, a diagnosable lump. It's palpable. You can only make money if you do it for everybody. And you can't make money doing angioplasty and bypass when they arrive at the hospital in the middle of the myocardial infarction. You got to do that for 500,000 people a year. And the same thing is true, by the way, in the alternative health field. Vitamin D is good for patients in kidney failure and nursing home patients who haven't been outside since 1977. It's just not a very good idea for the general population. And so if we would just use drugs, supplements, procedures and diagnostic tests for their intended purpose, medicine would cost $500 million a year instead of $3 trillion. Patients wouldn't get hurt. Doctors could spend more time doing other things that I'm sure would be useful.
Yeah, and the high-tech medicine it's so spread out. I mean, I practice in Houston. It's the largest medical center in the world. We have three heart transplant centers in walking distance. And we have medical centers spread out throughout the community, and 20 of them does open heart surgery. You get dialysis everywhere, MRIs everywhere. So the duplication of these services constantly drives up the cost. And if a hospital has an OR and they have a surgeon, then they have to get their numbers up. So they have to do more bypass surgery, they have to do more angioplasties because they need to get good at it. And so we have to have the alternative view in that, these centers that do open heart surgery or angioplasty, these places need to be maybe one location every 3,000 miles. They should be centers of excellence that are concentrated in certain areas where people are shipped to those areas only on an as-needed basis. And if we're doing the right thing in terms of lifestyle, you're decreasing the vast number of people that need these services. The problem is that we're poisoning ourselves on a regular basis, and so it becomes like a game of Russian roulette. And so you have to, and my patients will say, well, Thanksgiving's coming up, I'm going to eat some bad food. I said, well, have the ambulance by the table. Because when we're eating bad food, it's a matter of Russian roulette, and so we don't know who's going to drop next. And so that's why we have to have all these services duplicated all over the country and all of our communities, because we're just constantly poisoning ourselves, and we're creating a situation where we don't know who's going to drop next. And so we have to be ready to take the next person who has an acute illness, whether it's a heart attack or decompensated lung disease or et cetera.